Hello everyone, Vicki Achard here with Nature's Best Art. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be painting pretty roses in a pretty bowl. And I just love doing that. I love putting the roses in the bowl on my dinner table or my picnic table. So let's get started. Okay, I got my watercolor Strathmore card down. It's a 140-pound cold press. And I have my masking tape with a 1/4-inch border around it. And you can use just a watercolor paper. You don't have to make it a card. And then this is my drawing. And you can pause the video if you'd like. And I made it really dark, because what I did is I transferred onto my watercolor paper. I put my Loew Cornell Transfer paper on top, dark side down. And then what I do is I put a piece of masking tape here and here, and then I transfer my drawing onto my card. So these are the two roses, and this is the bowl, and this is the area for our table. And this is the shadow area. It just reminds me to put the shadow. A lot of times I forget. So this helps me remember. And I may put a background and I may not. Okay. So now there's a little bit of green here. And what I always do is I color this area that it tends to be a little confusing to me if it's too congested. So that tells me that's where the rose will start. And those are my stems, and there's a little leaf in here that was in the bowl with the roses. So the leaf is going to be sap green and green gold. In some areas I saw both colors in that. The green gold and the ultramarine blue mix is what makes it an olive color green. Okay, so then the rose. I actually saw 3 different tones of colors in there. The light area is permanent Alizarin Crimson and Cerulean Blue mix. The mid-tones are going to be permanent Alizarin Crimson. That's a hard word for me to say. PAC and ultramarine blue mix. And then the dark areas are the permanent Alizarin Crimson and the Prussian Blue. The shadows are going to be I'm going to make the shadows with Payne's gray. I'm going to put some water in the Payne's gray, and that'll make a nice shadow. And I'm using. Sorry, you might not be able to see these words very well. I am down to my scraps. Last video I used my scraps too. It's my Arches scraps that I have. And I didn't want to make it bigger because Arches paper is really expensive, and I usually put my my colors on the Strathmore, because the Strathmore paper is a lot cheaper, and I don't have any more Strathmore paper. I actually ordered it last week. So when I get my Strathmore paper, I'll use those bigger papers that I usually like to use, so you can see them a little bit better. I hope you can read this. Okay, so then the table is going to be a mix of burnt umber and burnt sienna mix. The darker areas of the table are going to be the burnt umber, and if I put a background in, I may not, it's going to be Payne's gray and cerulean blue mix, which makes a really pretty color, I thought, with the maroonish looking flower, that kind of blue, that kind of navy blue. So we'll see. Okay, so now we're ready to paint. All right, and I am going to start with this area here, because I want to get this right. You'll maybe see me paint kind of slowly, because I want to make sure I look at my reference photo a lot. It's just very confusing. Okay, I'm starting to paint in my leaf up there, and my stem, and my sepals around on the bottom of the roses. You know how they have those little spiky things on the bottom. And I think I actually even put in another stem on the maroon rose there, because it didn't show it much in my reference picture, but I thought that was probably a good thing to put in. I wanted a little bit more green. You'll see me doing that later. So what I'm doing now is I'm painting the white rose. And when you paint your white rose, you put the shadows in. I start to put the shadows where I had my pencil marks. Excuse me. And then you'll see me going in and actually painting in some shadows that look like petals. I start doing that. And these roses are very pretty. We have two bushes of plants of roses, of the white roses, in our backyard. And now I'm defining it a little bit. My areas where I want to have the petals of the roses. And later I go in with yellow ochre and Hansa Yellow Deep, where I think the middle part of that rose is, you know how the roses have a little bit of that I don't know what you call it. It's the middle part of the rose. And I do that later. So now I'm covering my entire maroon rose with a very light maroon that I created with the the permanent Alizarin Crimson and Cerulean Blue. And then now I'm painting in looks like I'm painting my mid-tones there. And I'm going in and painting where I saw the darkest part of the rose was. So for a while it looks very divided, and but I'm just looking at the tones. I'm looking at the darks and the lights, where the darks and the lights were, and that's all I'm painting at this point. We have lots of different color roses. My pink ones haven't bloomed yet. I know they come in later in my front yard, but they're really late this year. And I love putting the flowers in the water. And this pretty bowl that we got was actually from our wedding. It was 35 years this July 6th. So we've had these bowls for 35 years. Now right there, I think that it's a little too dark, and so I take some of the paint out, dry it, and put a little of the lighter paint in there. And if you ever want to know the paint colors, if you ever need to know them later, you want to come back to the video and look at that, you can, if you're on YouTube, I always list the materials that I use. I list my brushes, my paints, any other materials. Now you see me there going in and putting a little of those sepals. And then adding that other color, which is green gold and ultramarine blue mix, just a little, give that green a little variation. Just Now I'm starting to, I was going to say I'm just fixing that area a little bit. Now the lines on the bowl, were appearing. So, I wanted to get that in. And I was using my number 8 brush here. And there was a little ridge on the bowl, so I wanted to get that in. And a little area there where it showed some lines right under that yellow, the white flower, with the white rose. And I had all these lines in, before I started painting, so that helped me know where to put them, where to paint them. And I just go around and look at my darks and lights and see where it looks darker than at other times, at other places rather. And putting a little water underneath that rose, the look of the water. And now I'm painting the water all around. And you can see my lines from the bowls reflected in the water. And that's what I wanted to do, because that's what I saw. And just putting a little shadow around that glass bowl there, making it look like glass. And there was a little shadow there. And now I'm wetting my table area. And I was thinking beforehand about what color I wanted the table. So I made that the burnt umber and burnt sienna mix, and sometimes I just went in the burnt sienna, and sometimes I just put burnt umber, depending on where I wanted darker or lighter. And I always like my tables to not look perfect. I just think they look better that way. Kind of rustic here and there. And I put, that was my second glaze. And now I'm going in with my 3/4 inch flat brush, putting the lines in. Instead of using my scraper, my credit card scraper to make those lines this time, just wanted a little smoother line. And then I went in and you saw me use the brush part, the total brush part of that 3/4 inch flat. There I go again. And put it a little darker on that side. And now I'm creating a shadow. And the shadow on this one was under the bowl. However, I'm actually painting a second picture of this. Today's Thursday. I painted this Monday. So I am going to actually show you what I did with this painting in my next video. So that will be next week. So please tune in to that video next week, and you'll see what I did, because I think that the shadow was too thick, too wide, and kind of looks like the bowl is sitting on top of a wooden piece, perhaps, and I didn't really like that. So I'm actually painting it again, and I want you to see what I did differently. But now I'm painting that shadow with my Payne's gray, wanting it a little darker. Kind of in the back of my mind, when I learned how to paint, I remember the teachers that I listened to on YouTube. That's where I learned how to paint. Always said, don't be afraid to make your dark places darker. Don't, and it was just in my mind, to do that. And I just think it got a little too dark. But now, now here on the bowl, I thought was really really nice was that I darkened it here and there because it did look a little like silvery, you know, and so I wanted to try to get that effect, and just made my lines a little darker on the table. And let's see what, okay, so now I am, I decided to put a background because I just love that color together that I put, made the Payne's Gray and the Cerulean Blue together. Made a really pretty blue, I thought. So, and I'm putting that in. I'm really glad I did that. And you'll see on my next glaze that I actually push my brush around quite a lot. I first dry it between the glaze there. And, you know, I'm pushing it to look, you know, I don't want the background to look just solid color. I want it to look different colors here and there. Kind of muddled. That's kind of like how I like my backgrounds. And then I actually go in this side especially. I wanted it darker on this side because I wanted my light source to appear on the left side. So I really like that background. I really like that color. And now I'm trying to fix that shadow a little bit. I'm working with it, trying to, you know, lighten it here and there. So I did see a little bit of a difference on the left. It was a little darker on the left on my reference photo there. But I just think I want to change that. So, and now I'm I want to define my edges of the bowl a little bit. Trying to fix that shadow. And I thought, well, that looks pretty good. And I thought, well, I don't know. so I, you know, just fixing it here and there now. But I decided to paint it over because I do want to make this a card. I love it. But I'm going to do something different with that shadow. Sign my name. Take the tape off. A little bit got on the border. I take that off with this X-Acto knife. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it with a friend. Until next time, happy creating. See you next week.